Welcome to putting CLIL into practice. We're going to have a look at the three dimensions of CLIL, 3DCLIL. The conceptual content, the procedural content and the linguistic content. And in our book, Putting CLIL into Practice, we use the metaphor, the music studio mixing desk, to suggest that in any learning context, the teacher can increase or decrease the volume of any of these three factors, or all or none, depending on the needs of the students. And I'd quite like to show an example of that in practice, because that is part of the course content for teachers who come to our course in Plovdiv. And of course the conceptual content can be quite abstract and difficult and distant from students, so teachers may need techniques to make that more accessible to their students. The procedural content may involve a dynamic that the students have not met before, so an activity that they've never experienced, how the groups are organised, how the class is organised, and the interaction between them may be very new. They may need demonstration and repetition to get that right the first time they do it. And the linguistic content, of course, language in a foreign language medium subject lesson can have a variety of challenges for students, and we look at 3 levels of language, and each of them carry their own challenges for students. So we'll look at that, and it's useful to point out actually that of course it goes without saying the language factor is going to be an important focus for students in a foreign language, but through the concepts and the procedures they also demand a language. So language is throughout this model, throughout this structure, and the questions really for the teacher are what language to highlight, where to put it, physically where to place it, where to embed it within learning, and how it can be used, how it's going to be activated within the lesson. And we look at types of language, and in the literature we refer to BICS and CALP, so basic interpersonal communication skills and cognitive academic language proficiency. And we'll have a look at how this changes throughout the learning process the students go through. So as they get older through school, how their lesson language becomes gradually more abstract and less communicative, incidentally. So we'll look at all of that. So what we've got here is an animation that any physics teacher might pick up from the internet. This is from BBC Bite Size GCSE Physics. And I picked this example because I met a physics teacher, and he wanted to talk about this specific example for his students, and we were talking about what to do about language. And this describes how atomic structure was identified, and it's an experiment, I think, with Geiger, Rutherford and colleagues, who shot alpha particles at gold leaf foil and discovered that there's a positive charge that disperses the alpha particles because of the positive charge in the alpha particles. And this identified the atomic structure. And it's interesting for a physics teacher to consider what to do about language, as we suggested in the linguistic factor of 3DCLIL, and where to put it and how to use it. Well, I would suggest make it visible for students, because as the teacher's talking, students are going to be looking at the animation. So create some slides where the students can actually see the language, and as the teacher's talking at the screen, drawing. It may be that they do write this language on the board, very simple structures for students to follow in single terms or in paraphrases, highlight what the teacher expects the students to produce themselves and put that on the screen for the students to see. As you can hear, my quite crude slides are highlighting language that the teacher would use as they talk through this experiment.